Okay. I am going to, all right, welcome everybody. And we're officially getting started with our Finding Your Way to Resilience with my special guest, Kerry-Ann Thompson, who's a resilience expert. And I bring my expertise around introversion and high sensitivity and our take on resilience. And Kerry-Ann has a specialty in supporting career moms. And we'll get into more about Kerry-Ann's background and everything. Do you want to just say hi and get your voice in the room, Kerry-Ann?
Yes, definitely. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out and just supporting this event. I really hope it's useful for you.
Yeah, I'm sure it will be. Just your warmth will be wonderful. I do want to just give a warm welcome to everyone and say, if you're interested in this topic, sometimes it means that it's been a stressful time. And so I just want to honor that. And it doesn't mean it has to be, it could just be that you're interested. But for a lot of us, we've got a lot just in one day, even if you just look at the news, my gosh. But also, I know you're dealing with even more just in your own life or trying to grow a business or whatever it is. It's a lot. It's a lot. And we all need to be knowing how to take care of ourselves. And so we're going to talk specifically about what is resilience and how can we be even better at that? How can it be easier? I put in the chat the agenda for what we're doing. I'm just put it in again for those who have just joined. Basically, we're going to do some welcome. We're going to do a grounding in just a moment. I'll do a little more on introductions, and then we'll get into an interview of Kerry-Ann, and we'll have some reflection time within that. And so it'll be a little bit interactive in that way using the chat. And then we'll have some Q&A time at the end, some questions for Kerry-Ann. So that's what we're doing. I just need to, there we go. I'm just getting my desktop set up better. All right. Let me go ahead and guide us in a little bit of grounding. Can everyone hear me okay? If there's any problems, please let me know in the chat. Can you hear me okay, Kerry-Ann?
I'm hearing you great.
Okay, super. All right, so I invite folks to either close your eyes or look down and soften your gaze as we go through this. Just going to take a couple minutes. And I'm going to close my eyes and I invite you to just take some nice, slower breaths. And what that can mean for me is really focusing on the out breath, letting it go all the way to the end, just releasing. And I even say to myself inside, letting go on each out breath. And there's nothing that has to happen. There's nothing to fix. And I also invite you to bring in some sort of movement, maybe a stretch towards the sky, or shoulder rolls, wrist rolls, some sort of yummy movement that can be really good for coming into this present moment and coming away from all the busy mind stuff that can hold us hostage. Just coming into this moment, this body, this space. And I also invite you to feel your feet on the ground, just literally grounded right here in this new moment. Just landing right here. At the same time, you might send a message to your mind. I just like to say, I am safe. I am safe. That's one of my resilience tricks, is just reminding myself I am safe in this moment. Because the mind can try to trick us into thinking that we're not. But it's also very suggestible to the statement, I am safe. All right, and just one last thing, send yourself a little bit of love and compassion for all that you're going through. I like to place a hand over my heart to do that. All right. Thank you for doing that all together. And I want to turn it over to you, Kerry-Ann, to say a little bit more about what you do. Tell us about this resilience specialty. And I know you've done some disaster work and you're doing some resilience coaching, but I'm going to let you describe it.
Okay, great. Thank you, Val. And again, thanks to everybody. As Val said before, I am a resilience coach for career moms. And I come with a background of disaster resilience. So basically, very early in my career, while I was still studying, I was very curious to understand disaster risk and what made people vulnerable. So I wasn't open to assuming that people were vulnerable in specific ways or general ways, I should really say. But I really wanted to know what made different people likely to, be impacted by a disaster. In later years, I went on to become a practitioner in disaster management, and I worked all over the Caribbean. And one thing that became clear to me as I became a mom and a working mom is that even though I was concerned about the resilience of countries and states, this resilience thing was something that I needed a lot of to just get by in my field. And I just thought it was a little bit ironic that I wasn't paying attention to that. And that did lead to some burnout in the later years. And actually, that led me to actually move into this space. There's a story behind that too. But I decided to just expand what I did, what I was passionate about, and to just lean in on what I knew I was good at. And I really found that in career coaching, in coaching moms, I should say, career moms.
I love it. And so you're doing both now. You're doing disaster resilience and resilience coaching for individuals. I love that combination. I love how I'm imagining that you're bringing a lot of what you learned and applying it on micro and macro levels. Is that right?
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely.
So
and it's amazing to see the parallels.
Yeah. You've studied this a lot, so I'm excited to hear from you. Let's start with defining resilience, because that's kind of a funny word, and I sort of assume it means something about bouncing back easily, but tell us more. What is it really?
Yeah, that's it, Val. There are different ways to define resilience, but I think my favorite one is really about the ability for us to cope with whatever life throws at us. So we know that there's so many different things that can happen in life, and they can be just the smallest of challenges, they can be daily stressors, or they can be just major life situations like a job loss, divorce, a death in the family. And one thing about resilience is that we all have it. It's all innate, but we're not born with the maximum of it, or we're not born with a certain amount that stays that way forever. We can actually build our resilience through our learned experiences. So the more you live, the more things happen, the more opportunities you have to actually build your resilience.
That makes me wonder, does that mean the more stress you go through, the more resilient you become? Does it work like that?
Yeah, well, it's still a choice to tune in and make the best of the situation. So yes, you can erode your resilience through things happening, but you can also choose to pull on, the reserves that you have, the resources that you have to build your resilience. And that's why we're having this session.
Yes. Oh, I love the way you're saying all that. Yes, I'm resonating with that. So tell us a little more about you and your own I know you went through a burnout at one time, and being a single mom is a challenge in and of itself. And what has worked for you in finding your way to a positive version of resilience?
Yes. So, yes, I did experience burnout, and it was something that was just very different for me. not being able to function in the way I used to function, being super productive, achieving goals. And it was a tough time, but I was actually able to pull on something inside of me. And those were my strengths, a couple of my strengths, one of which is my empathy. It's something that I usually turn toward others. I'm that listening ear, I'm that shoulder to cry on. But I decided that I was going to turn it onto myself and just give myself those messages of kindness, reassuring myself that I'm good enough, even if I'm not achieving or functioning in the way that I'm accustomed to functioning. And I also used, along with that, my self awareness and also my love for learning and sharing those learnings and applying those learnings. So it actually led me to do a lot of research and introspection that led me to two main conclusions about strengths, actually.
Love this. You know what's funny about what you said is a lot of people feel like they're so empathetic or they care so much about so many things that that's what's draining for them. But you actually turn towards it. I think that's wonderful. And I've heard that too, that when we turn it towards ourselves, it helps balance things out. Otherwise, it's a sit where it's like all the energy goes out and we can keep going.
Absolutely.
You said that. And your love of learning and all those strengths. So take us a little further with this strengths connection and how can others use that in their own resilience?
Okay, so the strengths approach really allows a person to see themselves at their best, looking at the value that they bring just by being themselves, not another version of themselves, not somebody else, just as they are, and really removing the focus from looking at all your weaknesses and building those, which we found to not necessarily be the best way to rise above, so to speak. Knowing what our strengths are has actually been discussed and written in by positive psychologists, and they found that if you know your strengths, it can boost your confidence. It can give you a better sense of direction. You can be more productive and actually have a higher likelihood of achieving goals.
Yeah, I think this is something that you and I are both, we're big fans of knowing your strengths and leaning on those instead of trying to fix weaknesses. That's a kind of a draining path. Whereas leaning into your strengths, what you're already naturally good at, it's just more fun and works better.
Yep, definitely.
Because your strengths, my understanding is your strengths are something you enjoy using. So that in and of itself is helpful. More enjoyment.
Exactly.
Mm. Did you have more you wanted to say about strengths?
Well, I wanted to show you this diagram that I came up with because I feel like it's analogous to resilience. So I'm going to share it now. Let me know if you can see everything.
Yes.
Okay, great. So what we have here is resilience represented as a tree. There's so many parallels between the tree and resilience, both when you think about a tree, you think about the roots that they have, how strong and interconnected they are and deep within the ground. You can also think about how much a tree basically, sorry, let me just collect my thoughts. Right, we can think about how a tree is always growing, always, it starts as a seedling, but it can expand and it's, as I said, it gets the roots, you get a big network of branches and leaves, and we can think of resilience in that way. We can start with a little bit and with time we can build and grow that. It's also very flexible. So, a tree may be in a storm and it's very likely to bend and not break. So those are just some of the parallels between, resilience, and that's why I represented it as a tree. Now, when we think about the things that feed resilience, I really love to talk about strengths because it's what we already have and it's what makes us unique. And we all have different combinations of strengths in terms of what shows up more potently than others. And in this diagram, you'll see that I have just some examples. This is not, of course, not every single strength that exists, but these, I call them rocks. So the creativity, strength as a rock, intuition, strength as a rock, all of these, if you're an individual, you can pull on your strengths, pull on these, and those can actually foster various facets of resilience. So for example, creativity, if you have that as a top strength, that means that you can foster your problem solving capabilities that can actually help to pull you out of a difficult situation. Or if you're somebody who has intuition as a major strength, it allows you to know when something is not serving you in a situation and allow you to make nourishing decisions for yourself, whether it is through a self-care practice or establishing or reinforcing a boundary. All of those things, really matter. And I just wanted to point out that these strengths that I've chosen, I wanted to pick something that would resonate with highly sensitive persons and introverts. So these may resonate with you. They may not, but they might. And when I look at appreciation of beauty, that's over here, I know that persons who are highly sensitive are sensitive to inputs, right? Sensory inputs. And if you decide to focus on something beautiful, you can appreciate it more and have better, stronger moments of awe, which can actually kind of switch off that mental cycle that can produce a lot of stress and help to build your resilience that way.
I love thinking of appreciation of beauty as a strength. I love that that's in there. And awe. I mean, there's so much. I was starting a book about awe, but just thinking about awe is, I think, good for the soul. It's, restorative.
Absolutely. Yes, it is.
I wonder if this is a good time to help folks think about their own strengths. Do you want to should I, or do you want to share a prompt for folks to think to do?
Sure, I can share the prompt.
Let's leave that up because it's a nice example.
Oh, could you say that again?
Please leave up the slide because makes a nice example.
Okay, I will. So basically, I would love if everybody would just maybe think about something that you're worried about, something that's worrying you right now. And just think about what is a strength of yours that you could bring to it to address that. And we'd love to see what you have to say in the chat.
Yeah, so first let's think about a worry. And also, I can't see the whole slide right now.
Sorry.
There it is. Okay. All right, let's think about a worry and then think about a strength. And this could be a cheat sheet if you recognize any of these. How could that apply? I'm going to think about it too. I'm going to share an example, and that might help if anyone's stuck. I'm thinking about a family member, a dear loved one who's going to be at some point going into a major surgery and that I'm nervous about. And so that feels like a moment of like, am I going to be able to handle it? Because I'm a worrier. And so when I look at even just this list of strengths, I think, okay, well, if I can kind of think ahead instead of just stressing, worrying, I can instead kind of start to imagine, all right, I can bring humor, I can bring intuition for what's needed, I can bring creativity for what's needed. I can bring empathy to just, tune in and check in and with other family members too. And so thinking about being able to bring those is actually already helping me feel more able to face that day when that day comes. So that's really cool. I love this. I love this exercise. I'm going to see. Let's see what others wrote. So I'm going to read out a few. I won't use names, but a worry of receiving abundance and a strength, seeing and appreciating beauty and therefore abundance everywhere. Yes, I love that.
Beautiful.
And here's another one. My parents, whom I struggle to love because I didn't grow up with them. However, my strength is to visit them and make sure they're okay. Yeah. A worry about career trajectory. There's a lot coming in. And strengths, ability to weigh different perspectives, positivity, love of community, self-awareness. Yeah, I can see how all that will help. Here's a very specific one this week, a worry about a job interview this week and trying not to listen to my inner critic. So that could be a strength to talk back to that inner critic and tune into the inner wisdom. Are you looking at them? Do you want to call out any of them?
Yes, I saw one. Nicole was sharing that financial security is a worry as a mom, and just ensuring that they're financially stable. I share that too, definitely. And Nicole finds strength in diversifying her income, which she's actually working towards by furthering her studies to be an entrepreneur. That's so great.
Probably a strength of learning in there.
Yes, learning and applying that learning.
Yeah. There's another couple, a concern about attracting clients and using the strength of relator and empathy. Yeah, those are great strengths for that. It's about people connection from the heart.
Yes.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for doing that. I know we didn't get a chance to read them all. There's quite a few, but I think you get the idea. All right. Let's see what else. Well, I think we got a good idea about strengths. So that's something that people can continue with on their own, thinking about whatever a worry is. So that could be a practice. What's the worry? What strength do I already have that I can turn to? What else do you want to say about what helps with resilience?
Right. So the last thing I want to say on strengths, just very quickly, is just how to identify those strengths. So there are, because this is such a well-researched area, there are actually resources out there that you can take like an assessment. So for example, the VIA assessment for strengths. It's actually a survey that takes about 10 minutes for you to do. So I can put a link in. I hope it won't affect the slide, but I can put the link in and just share it there. Also, you can
in the chat. That should be fine.
All right. And then you can do some introspection on maybe some things that you were able to overcome in the past. And just think about what strengths you pulled on to achieve, to get over it. And then you can also ask maybe like a friend, somebody who you really trust, to say, hey, I'm looking at self-development and I just wanted to know what you think my strengths are, just to get at some insight there.
Great. Yeah, there's so many ways to clarify, to just get more in touch with your strengths. And I'm so glad you're mentioning that. The VIA character strengths is a free one. There's some other ones that maybe have a fee for them, but Sparketype is another free one that tells you a little bit about strengths, just a teeny bit. But so yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that. What else?
Well, maybe we could look at what comes after strengths. Well, once you've identified and explore their strengths, it's always important to apply those strengths and just to remember that this is in many ways a preparation. I work in the field of disaster resilience, and one of the things that we promote so highly is preparation as opposed to being hypervigilant and always waiting for the other shoe to drop, but actually just being able to do that introspection in advance and have that, store of information that you can pull on when the time comes.
Love that. The difference between preparation and hypervigilance. It's a nice distinction. Thank you.
Okay. So another thing that I wanted to talk about was the importance of nature in building resilience. Yes, and I'm so excited and intrigued to share this because I realize it's something that has a strong body of knowledge behind it. There's a lot of research and there's a lot of evidence behind it. And it's even coming to a point where doctors are thinking of how to prescribe nature, really. I saw that in an article that I was reading this morning. But just to start off, when you look at this diagram, number one, the biophilia hypothesis. So it's a fancy term that just speaks to us as humans recognizing that there's an innate connection between humans and nature, right? So we were born to be a part of nature, and when we don't get enough of it, it can show. Yeah. So secondly, in today's society, we face so many demands on our lives, so many deadlines, so many triggers. And unfortunately, that triggers something known as the sympathetic nervous system. And that has to do with fight or the flight, if you fight or flight mode. And in times of early mankind, we needed that in order to survive our harsh environment. If something, a wild animal was chasing us, we definitely want that sympathetic system to kick in to allow us to get out of it and to survive. Unfortunately, this is being triggered on a daily basis and multiple times per day. And that's not really how we are intended to live life. We have to find ways to counteract that. And one thing that has been found to counteract that is being in nature. Being in nature actually counteracts the parasympathetic nervous system. And that actually has to do with going back into a state of ease and relaxation, coming down from that adrenalized state. So that's something that's really important about nature. And then thirdly,
can I
sure,
chime in here?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so it sounds like being in nature helps to reduce that sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight, and bring us into that more calm place. And I certainly notice that. And I'm a highly sensitive person, and I imagine a lot of people here might relate to that trait as well, being highly sensitive. And we tend to really notice that difference in nature. And so a lot of highly sensitive people tend to be big fans of time in nature. But I want to, something I learned about it is that we can tend to more easily go into that fight or flight and actually have a harder time coming out of that fight or flight. So this is actually a critical thing to be thinking about as a person with high sensitivity, to really understand what brings you from, back out of that, because it can happen even faster for us and be a little harder to come out. So I just want to mention that, to pay attention to those things.
Thanks, Val. So the other thing I wanted to mention is what happens when we're in nature. When we live our lives daily, we're in control. We're doing the things. We are in charge of outcomes. But when you sit in nature, you involuntarily become this observer of things that are functioning outside of our control. And that can kind of inspire some measure of rest and detachment from the day-to-day concerns that you have, and it can actually do something towards, recovering our mental capacities for focus. So when we get in nature, it actually allows us to detach. It gives us a time to restore, to get back into our day-to-day lives so that we can function in the way that we need to.
Sounds so good. It's helpful for me to remember all these things, because I know that nature restores me, but I can also get really stuck on the couch when I'm feeling stressed. So it's so it's counteractive or whatever, counterproductive.
Yeah.
So it's good to hear all this evidence. It helps motivate.
Yes, exactly, because we need to know that this is important. This is like a pill or
Yes,
medicine, really.
really, really is. Yeah, thank you. Keep going.
Yeah, so number 4, there are actually some benefits to the physical brain that nature does. And what it does, researchers found that the parts of the brain that are responsible for empathy and pleasure, so the scientific terms are the insula and the basal ganglia, these are actually the parts of the brain that light up more when persons are viewing nature. So again, more evidence to show the benefits. And then finally, being in nature, of course, boosts stress reduction, but I wanted to make the distinction between being in a natural environment versus being in a very built up urban environment. So there was a study in 2022 by the Max Planck Institute for Human Development that showed that spending just 1 hour walking in nature actually made an improvement on mental well-being and boosted stress reduction compared to walking 1 hour in an urban environment, which did absolutely nothing.
Sad.
So for persons in urban environments, it doesn't mean that all hope is lost or
Good.
get nature. It's just that you have to be a little bit more intentional about getting it in. And I was actually reading an article just this morning that said that there's a recommendation of getting at least 120 minutes, which is 2 hours of nature weekly, which means that if you're in an urban area, you might not be able to get out to the park or the zoo every single day. But if you can carve that out on the weekend, then it's going to be, and you can get 2 hours in, then you're actually getting what you need.
Oh, good. And can it be mixed, like a park with buildings in the background or something?
Absolutely. It's about, it's also about you're a participant in nature as well. So it's about how open you are to observing what's there around you.
Yeah. Connecting with those trees and the ferns and the whatever. That's great. I'm so glad you brought all that in. Just reminding me to get out there, and it's so helpful. All right. Let's go ahead and start to wrap up. And I would love to hear, what are some key takeaways you want to make sure people get?
Okay, so one of the bigger
sorry, if you're done with the slide, maybe we can undo the share. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Problem. And there's a conversation going on in the chat, I noticed, about
relating to high sensitivity. I need nature daily. I do best even camping in nature. I have a dog, so we go in the forest every day. If we don't, we all feel the difference. Yes. People are relating. Yes. Good. Me too.
Yeah. So I think one takeaway that I have is I wanted to direct it to career moms, because I discovered for myself, being a career mom, that I was building strengths in my career. So that communication skills, the problem solving and the planning skills. And then when I became a mom, I started to build on my patience and my empathy and my kindness. And then I realized I was able to apply my strengths in my different areas of my life. So I became a better worker because I was more patient, with my child, and then vice versa. So I just want to encourage career moms that they have a double reservoir of strength that they can pull on if they're willing to be aware of it and take the time to understand what those things are.
Mm. That just blows my mind, right? Like, and I've seen that with my clients who are moms. I've seen how strong they are. It kind of blows my mind. Yeah. So yeah, I love that you're highlighting that. Thank you.
Yes. And I guess the only other thing that I would have to say, and it pertains to nature, is yes, I mentioned the 2 hours per week of nature, but if you don't think you're getting any, I just want to encourage you to tune in to what is around you. So if you have a patch of flowers in your yard, just take a moment to look at how it sways. Develop an appreciation of nature, as a baby step. What happens to be around you, and be intentional about picking up what's there. So I just want to encourage you in that way.
Yeah. And someone added in, she's in a city, and so she brings it into her home, bit of gardening and surrounding herself with plants. Absolutely. One time I was in a meditation class and they had us meditate by just looking at a cut flower in a vase. And it was amazing. Just what you can see in a flower is mind blowing.
Exactly. So as humans, we have the power and the creativity to get what we need around us. And I just wanted to bring these things to the fore so that we know that we can arm ourselves to deal with the day-to-day pressures of life and the big things that may come our way.
Yeah. I want to add in that sometimes we need to actually change our circumstances. Like maybe you're trying to get a new job or start a business or whatever it is, changing your life, moving or something. And sometimes those are important for our stress reduction and happiness. But still the transitions and all the things you're dealing with in the meantime, and no matter what, we still have to be turning towards what works for us for resilience.
Yes.
There's always going to be challenges.
Absolutely. That's it.
And I love how you talked about making it a conscious thing. It's like all these things are possible and at the ready, already built in, but just a little bit of consciousness and turning towards the good is so, so helpful. So I found this inspiring.
I'm glad you did.
Great. So let's say that we're done with the presentation portion. And if anyone has questions or comments, please put them in the chat, and we'll read some of those out and respond. But yeah, that's also a good time to have some water. And good on time. There's someone, I'll just read some comments I'm seeing. Thank you, Kerry. I was not sure why I love nature so much, but you made it clear. And I do go out to be in touch with my plants, fruit trees, and animals. It is therapeutic. And here's one that's powerful this was about moms. Your child really does intensify your strengths. Yeah, glad. I mean, I know it can be exhausting too. Both are true. And thanks, Gary. This was good food for thought.
You're welcome.
And I don't know if folks saw, but Kerry-Ann did put in about a link to the VIA character strengths. And also, Kerry-Ann, if you have other things you want to put in the chat. And another person says, being in nature is the first thing I add to the calendar each week. Fantastic. And I know that person, and she is very calm. I bet you that's one of the reasons. Another one says, I want to say thank you to Kerry. I have been having some difficulties at work, and I realized between my intuition and self-awareness that I can deal with the difficulties in a positive way. I had only been seeing it in the negative. Yay!
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Great example. Yes, someone's putting a heart on that. And Michelle says, awesome presentation, Kerry. I agree. See, here's another one. Thank you for sharing this, Kerry-Ann. I really appreciated connecting strengths awareness with resilience building. And I especially appreciated you adding nature in as a resource. Self-awareness is a strength of mine, for sure. I know this person. But if left unchecked, ooh, a bunch coming in, it can create negative spirals. I suspect nature can break me out of that. I love this. I love helping to bring balance. Our strengths, I don't know if you've seen this, Kerry-Ann, but our strengths can kind of get out of control, right?
Yes.
Like empathy. We can empathize, and then forget
Oh, yeah.
Or we can be self-aware, and then we can get stuck in our heads.
That's a huge one for me,
Oh,
getting
yeah.
self-awareness. So
Yeah. I love this idea of turning to nature to help with balance too. I love it. Thank you for the reminder to identify strengths and lean into them instead of fixing weaknesses. Amen. Let's say that again. It's so easy to focus on weaknesses. So true. Another one, very good presentation. We'll try to get more in touch with nature. And another one, I love the tree diagram and the analogy to resilience. Thank you. And this next one, great presentation. Thank you. The idea that we can use the empathy that we extend to others for ourselves is phenomenal. If only that takeaway, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
I think that's huge, huge, huge. It is such a source of burnout for people with big hearts, or they imagine it might be, or worry. And it can be draining if it's all tilted like that. So yeah, balance. Even for ourselves. I don't see questions, but I love the reflections people are sharing. Is there anything else you want to add, Kerry-Ann, before we start?
Maybe just how to reach out to me if there are any questions.
Oh, yeah. That would be great. Do you want to put that in the chat?
Sure. So I'm going to share my website, drkerryannthompson.com. You can also email me at kerry@drkerryannthompson.com. And I'm also on LinkedIn.
Good.
So I'm going to share all of that.
That's good. Good, I'm glad. And oh, there is a question, but I want to add that one of the reasons we're doing this is because it comes from our hearts. We love this work. We love talking about these things and sharing about it. And we wanted to do this for no cost, just to make it very accessible. We had over 60 people sign up. So you're not alone, that a lot of people are thinking about this topic for lots of reasons. And also it's part of our visibility. We both have businesses and we want to connect with people and have people know what we're up to. So I want to just say that Kerry-Ann is making a lovely offer of some free coaching sessions. So you can find that. I don't know if you want to put a link directly to that if you want. So that's it. So here's the question. Oh yeah, there. Thanks, Kerry. Here's a question. How do we begin to examine how we've been resilient in the past and learn from that?
Wow.
I love that idea. Yes.
Yes, great question. I really think that looking back into the past can definitely give you a lot of insights about how we've overcome situations. We want to be careful not to go back into something that's particularly triggering. But if we go back to a situation where we've overcome, so we can know innately the things that we've overcome in our lives and what we've moved on from. And then if we take the time to maybe just pick out our strengths, whether it's through the assessment or just questioning, then you can do a bit of a matching or a mapping to look back and say, how did I get there? Kind of trace your steps back and think about which one of those strengths that you were able to identify closely matches to what allowed you to be able to get out of the situation. And then you can say, well, if this worked then, maybe it could work again. or maybe it worked in other situations. Maybe you can pick up on patterns, and then that will show you what you can really rely on and count on when something times get tough.
Yeah. Yeah. I love going back to the places where it works, where you felt like you overcame. I'll tell you a secret about my work. A lot of times people will come to a coaching session and go, how am I going to do this? Or this is stressful. And, and part of my brain thinks I'm supposed to have answers, but that's not my job. What I really do is I go, okay, let's look back at your own experience and see how it works for you and how you've already overcome things like this. And all I'm doing most of the time is helping people mine their own strengths, their own experience, and apply that to their situation. So there you go. You can coach yourself with the question. Good. Oh, let's see. Oh, good. Here's a question. Would you expand on the difference, Kerry-Ann, between hypervigilance and preparation? Love it. As an HSP, I've often thought of myself as hypervigilant with the need to protect from overwhelm of the world's needs. Bam, that is a powerful question.
Wow.
Please say more.
Okay, so I'm aware of the possibility and the potential to become hypervigilant, but I think that when you are preparing, you are actually taking steps to pull on and identify and pull on and apply these resources, such as strengths, in advance of something happening. So we know that this is life. Bad things will happen, challenges will happen, difficult situations will happen, and we'll have stressors. When you prepare, you're actually doing the work that you need to do so that if and when the event happens, you can easily recall and pull on that. And I think that hypervigilance has to do with being in a constant state of anticipating something negative. But preparation is actually what's going to give you that mental rest. So when in the field of disaster management, you're advised to prepare for the next disaster, stock up on your items, and just get ready. And when you actually prepare, you get that feeling that whatever comes my way, I'm going to be able to handle it. So it's that work that you're going to put in advance that can help to actually diminish hypervigilance if you're very intentional about it.
Yes, preparing reduces the hypervigilance. That's a nice antidote as one of the ways to reduce it. Yeah, I can be such a worrier. I mean, as an introvert, we're all a little, and highly sensitive people both are a little bit prone to overthinking and hypervigilance maybe. So this is something we need to think about and do whatever we can to reduce that and preparing. And I noticed when you had us do the exercise of thinking about a situation we're worried about and how can we apply a strength, that's one way I can prepare. And I'm preparing a positive image of how it can go. So that was helpful. I could feel myself relaxing about it too.
I'm seeing something from Linda. It's amazing. She said, preparation is empowering and negates the need to worry.
Yeah, nice. Wait, I know there was another one. Someone said, I love the idea of mapping past success at overcoming and the identifying the strengths in that. Great. And another one, I have to remind myself frequently to let go of my need to anticipate all problems and solutions. Prepare and let it be. It's a nice way to put it. And here's a question. I am training myself to turn empathy more to myself. Can you speak more about that, Kerry?
Okay. As I said before, I did experience burnout, and it was almost like a survival mechanism that kicked in, where I had to figure out how to just survive this time And I decided to turn that empathy toward myself. Now, there's actually a body of work out there that is, I think, is doing it so much better than I, and I would call that self-compassion.
Yeah.
Yes. So there's somebody by the name of Dr. Kristen Neff. She is, I would say, the foremost authority on the idea of self-compassion. And I feel like that addresses, if you're an empathetic person, if you're an empath, I think that that approach, the approach that she discusses and the exercises that she puts you through, if you listen to her book on self-compassion, can actually can help to train you on that. I think coaching can also help as well. That's also always a different way. But if you need guidance, if you need a person to help you, you can look at coaching. You can look at maybe just picking up that book and listening to it or reading it.
Yeah.
And see how that helps.
Yeah. She has a TED Talk. That could be a good starting place. You can also find self-compassion meditations online, things like that.
Yes.
Let's close with this question, and then we'll do a final wrap up. Is it okay not to have the answers?
Wow. Powerful question.
Hmm.
I think so. I think so, because life is full of uncertainty, and maybe the biggest worry is about what we don't know. And if we can't feel that, then that can bring anxiety and stress. And if we can learn to just be without needing to address the answer and solve the problem, then I think that that can go a long way for us. So definitely, it's okay to not have the answers.
I think self-compassion can come in handy there, right?
Absolutely.
And just, yeah, there's so much there, right? We could do a whole thing about embracing uncertainty and how does one do that? There's books on that too. Another comment, I've suffered from over preparation in the past too. Today, I was getting nervous about just being in front of the room. That's always a little bit nerve-wracking for me, but knowing I'm going to have companionship with Kerry-Ann was very helpful. And I also was like, I'm going to go out in nature and be with the trees. And it really did help. And at the same time, I'm glad we're wrapping up because then I can relax again a little more easily. There's one last comment. I am learning to embrace the mystery of life and trust the universe. That's lovely. A last word before we wrap up, Kerry-Ann? Anything?
Just a big thank you, a big expression of my gratitude for everybody who showed up today. I feel supported, but also I really feel so affirmed and encouraged when I saw the comments about how, how everybody was just connecting with the messages, persons who are already doing it. And it just reminds me of why I'm doing this. So thank you so, so much.
Thank you so much for bringing this. I'm seeing lots of thank yous in the chat, and I'm so grateful that you took the time. I know you put a lot into preparing slides and the messages, and I love how it went. I'm glad that we have this recorded for those who were here and those who couldn't make it. And thank you. We are complete.
Wonderful.